Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur. And tonight we are talking about last night's 2-1 victory against Nashville SC, in which Inter Miami gained 3 points at home against a playoff rival. My friend, my co-host, Saur, how are you feeling on this fine Sunday afternoon?
6-point swing in Inter Miami's favor. No complaints. Or are there? We'll find out. I have a feeling this is going to be a very spicy episode. The way you've previewed it in the debrief prior to the episode makes me a little bit concerned that you have a few things to get off your chest. I won't spoil any of it, but strap in, guys. It might be a fun episode.
Let's start with this. I predicted that Man City was going to win the Club World Cup, and they got eliminated like 5 hours later. So certainly your prediction that PSG would make it would win the tournament proved significantly more successful. But shout out to Chelsea. I know we haven't really paid attention on the podcast, the Club World Cup, over the last couple of days, but they did just win that tournament an hour ago or so with a relatively impressive 3-0 victory. I thought PSG had a chance or two early that could have changed the nature of the game. There was a Desiree Doué opportunity where he makes a pass and it gets intercepted by Cucurella early in the first half. That if that turns into a goal because he takes the shot, the whole game could have been different. But truthfully, it was a very professional performance by Chelsea and not something I think a lot of people saw coming. So congratulations to them and their fans. And because this is a tournament Inter Miami participated in, I feel like it's worth mentioning that it has now wrapped up.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch the final because I thought PSG was absolutely going to steamroll Chelsea. Boy, I was wrong. And that just goes to show anything can happen in football. It wasn't just Chelsea winning against PSG. It was Chelsea winning convincingly. So congratulations for doing that. And any team can win, I guess, on their given day, regardless of how good the opposition is. Well done. Great tournament overall. Finally wrapped up. And whatever people's thoughts are about it, I thought it was a resounding success, and I can't wait to see it again in 4 years.
Yeah, and hopefully Inter Miami gets to be a part of it, and we get to do a 3-hour pregame show for the opening kickoff, and I can assure you that would be the next time we did a 3-hour pregame show. Let's get into this game. Actually, before we get into this game, I just want to quickly mention that the Rodrigo de Paul stuff, if you haven't been paying attention, seems like it's going to come through early next week, and I think his debut will be the opener of the Leagues Cup, which is at the end of the month. So it's still progressing as far as we can tell, and we expect it to be completed shortly. Nothing's changed on that end, and I feel like that's important to say, even though there hasn't been any significant updates since the last time we were on the podcast. Is there anything else you want to add surrounding Inter Miami before we get into this game and the on-field product?
No. Well, let's get straight into it.
Not an eventful game, if I'm being totally honest. So I'm going to skip forward to the 17th minute where we can talk about Lionel Messi's free kick goal into that bottom corner. We spend hours every week talking about Inter Miami. And so everything our brains are capable of conjuring up to describe Lionel Messi, I think we've said over and over and over again. But this was just another one of those moments. Spectacular. Probably doesn't do it justice. No one else does that kind of thing on the type of consistent basis that Lionel Messi. He's amazing. Best player in the league. Best player in the world for my money. And it's a privilege to have him on our team. And I don't want anyone to think, despite what I'm going to say for the rest of this podcast, that I am not incredibly happy and lucky and grateful to have Lionel Messi on our team because he makes things possible that are not otherwise. So I want to start there. This was an incredible goal. It was a really good performance. It was an incredible performance from Lionel Messi over the course of 90 minutes. And overall, very happy and thankful that we have him on our team.
Other teams get penalties and are guaranteed to go. Inter Miami gets a free kick and are guaranteed to go. As soon as we had that free kick in that position, I honestly thought 9 times out of 10 that's going in. And it was one of those 9 times that the goal went in. Lionel Messi can strike the ball in so many different ways that honestly nobody can even question how it went in. His game IQ is phenomenal, and the fact that he saw that gap between the post and the wall and was able to squeeze it in. Just brilliant. I don't think the goalkeeper had any chance. Commentator during the goal mentioned that it may have taken a deflection. I don't think there was any deflection. It was pure accuracy and struck hard and low and beautiful, spectacular. Probably undersells it. Brilliant. And I can echo your sentiments about Messi and how lucky we are to have him on this team for hours and hours on end. So let's just end it there and move on to the next moment, because that was spectacular and we see that spectacular every week.
And beyond that, that's the side of the net that Joe Willis thought he had covered. So again, to slot it into that bottom corner, far post, it's just spectacular. Not so spectacular was Joe Willis in the 62nd minute when he gives a very poor turnover to Lionel Messi. And I want to skip the Nashville because we're going to come back to it and I think get into a little bit more detail. But in the meantime, Lionel Messi gets the ball one-on-one with the keeper at about the edge of the penalty box. And there are certainly a lot of players that would not convert that into a goal. So while it was a gift, plenty of players would have messed it up. And there was no chance Messi wasn't going to turn that into a goal. So it was certainly a mistake by the goalkeeper that gave a great opportunity to Lionel Messi. But I don't think it should go understated that Messi still had some work to do, and there was never a chance he wasn't going to put it in. And so, again, great form from Messi. He deserves credit for the ease with which he made that look, because there was another defender coming into the picture. Joe Smith did have half a second to sort of recover. And again, there was never a doubt Messi was going to put it in the back of the net.
Not just that, I think for critics who say that Messi doesn't press, he actually went up there because he recognized the goalkeeper's options in the passing lanes are difficult. He closed it down. His intuition was correct to go in the direction that Joe Willis wanted to pass it, and he got that ball off him. And after that, there was still plenty to do. Plenty of times players can miss an open goal as well, especially with the defender coming in to make a challenge. And Lionel Messi did what he does best, and that's stay calm, composed, and just buried it in the bottom corner. We got a bit lucky with that, but honestly, that was all 100% Messi. Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, I want to make sure he gets enough credit because we just assume he's going to be great. And that is an opportunity I think a lot of players do kind of fumble. So the fact that he didn't just nail it, but made it look easy and composed and calm and all that stuff, again, that's why he's the best player. As far as Inter Miami is concerned, I thought that was it. They had half a chance early on where Luis Suarez puts a ball into Kramaski. Kramaski gets sort of like a chest chin on it, but doesn't get a good header on it. Very few other opportunities for Inter Miami in this game. Not a lot of opportunities for Nashville. Really kind of a basic, boring game played without a lot of danger on either end. Is that how you would characterize it before we go to this Nashville goal?
I don't think so. I don't want to undersell this by saying it was a basic, boring game. I think there was a game plan that Inter Miami was trying to execute. It was well encompassed by Javier Mascherano's quote prior to the game, and I've written this down. He said in his press conference that Inter Miami does not want to get caught playing the way Nashville likes to play. And I think there was a judicious decision from the Inter Miami coaching staff to make sure they keep the ball well and make sure they protect it without taking too many risks. And as soon as Inter Miami went one goal up, we didn't necessarily see them going for that second goal. They preferred to keep the ball and maybe poke and prod to see if any chances come up. But unless there was something completely open, Inter Miami would be more prudent and be patient rather than risk Nashville getting them on the counter. Then, as soon as Nashville got one back at the start of the second half, I think Inter Miami pushed a little bit, got lucky with that second goal, and then we were back to playing that passive, making sure we protect the ball, control the game. So I think it was boring, absolutely, but that was by design. I think the idea was to be prudent and not overwhelming. And we can definitely have a discussion about whether or not that's the right strategy, because I think both of us have an idea where we will lie on that debate. But that's how Inter Miami wanted to play. And considering that, it's fine. We got the result. We got what we wanted out of the game. Beat a top opponent in the East. Got that 6-point swing. Let's go on to the next game. Now we can talk about whether that's actually the style Inter Miami should play and whether that's a little bit of a cowardice tactics. But I think that's the better way of summing it up rather than just saying it was a boring game and not much happened. I think Inter Miami made sure not much happened by the way that they played.
I agree. I think Inter Miami wanted it to be basic and boring, and it was basic and boring because Nashville did not have the tools to really challenge Inter Miami in this game. And I think that became apparent, especially on the rewatch. Nashville did not do much in this game, with one notable exception, which they do convert in the 49th minute. The reason why I wanted to go in a little bit of depth and try something new tonight is because I listened to our own conversation about this goal last night on the Raw Reaction, and I think we were not sure if we should put the blame on Kramaski or David Martinez or whoever we thought. So I decided to take a picture of the play as it's unfolding. And so if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I apologize that this may sound confusing to you. I will try my best to explain it with the visual guide that we put on the screen. This is the setup to the play. It's our 4-4-2 in the back, and the ball goes from the central part of the pitch out wide to Andy Najar, the right back, and then he whips in a ball centrally. You can see during the course of this play is that Jordi Alba steps out in order to take or put pressure on Najar with the cross. Behind him, Jacob Schaffelberg makes a run, and David Martinez follows him into away from the central part of the pitch. And Hani Mukhtar, who's playing behind the midfield and in front of the back line, but much closer to the back line, sees the gap, makes the run, receives the cross, puts it in the back of the. And I wasn't, we watched it and we saw David Martinez evacuate the area, and we thought, okay, maybe he was supposed to stay there. We saw Kramaski desperately trying to catch up to him in the aftermath of this play and isn't able to do it. And so those are the two obvious question, like maybe it was one of these two players. But I think upon rewatch and sort of taking a closer look, the two mistakes happen first early in the play, the major mistake, and that's Talasco Segovia, who should be responsible for that part of the pitch, unnecessarily drifts centrally, and he leaves a wide area pretty much unvacated, and that's what forces Jordi Alba to step out, which forces David Martinez to run with Schaffelberg, and then it leaves the opening. And then after that, as the play's unfolding, you can tell that Kramaski was not in a position and probably wasn't responsible for Hani Mukhtar in that moment. It probably should have been Maxi Falcón with the last-minute challenge, because Falcón can see this play in front of him happening, and it's closer to the ball. So he should step forward, I believe, and make that a more difficult play for Hani Mukhtar. That said, I do think this primarily starts with Segovia vacating the space, leaving an unoccupied attacker, and then forcing everyone to rotate. You make the rotation more difficult. Hani Mukhtar is a good player with nice burst and acceleration, and it's a good cross in the play, and they finish the play. I think it starts with Segovia drifting inside, and then I think it's Maxi Falcón's responsibility in the last-ditch effort to try and make a play on Hani Mukhtar. That's my opinion from rewatching the game. Again, if you are on YouTube, you get the visuals and maybe you understand a little bit better what I'm saying. So I hope I explained it well for the audio people. But Saur, do you agree?
Absolutely. I think you covered it really well. It was a bit of a domino effect where Segovia did not necessarily go out wide to cover the man, which pulled Jordi Alba out of position, which pulled David Martinez out of position, creating a massive gap in the middle. Maxi Falcón was prudent enough to stick with his man, even though I think he should have tried to go cover Hani Mukhtar because he was the obvious target for that cross. And his inability in doing so left Hani Mukhtar completely free. I don't even think Benjamin Kramaski could have got there. He's so far back. There's nowhere clear to. There's nowhere that he's going to get in him for the ball and to stop Hani Mukhtar from getting on the end of it. And I think it's just a matter of Segovia not putting the pressure at the right time and drifting too far inwards, not staying out wide. One of the aspects of the 4-4-2 is to prevent and double up when you need to on the wide angles. And it's Segovia's man clearly. it just felt like a domino effect, which completely moved apart the defense. And Nahar has the ability to put in those pinpoint crosses, and Hani Mukhtar with a very easy goal at the end of the day. I thought that was a defensive lapse more than anything else.
Uh, we did not fact check this, but Nick Smith is saying in the chat that Masha, after the game, said in so many words that it was Benha's guy to cover. I think that's crazy if you watch how the play unfolds. Hani Mukhtar is playing along the back line, 10 yards behind Kermaski and the midfield line. I just can't understand how that would be his responsibility, if I'm honest. But certainly there's plenty of things that Mascherano has said and done that I don't understand. So we'll move on from that. Is there any other moments in this game that you wanted to discuss? Kramaski had sort of a half chance early on. Suarez had a chance early in the game where it feels like the goalkeeper had vacated and he needed to chip the defender to put it at the back of the net. Misses high and wide. But again, I just felt this was a pretty eventful game.
Yeah, I agree with you. Not much happened, especially in terms of goal scoring opportunities. There were a couple of instances when Nashville got free and had that opportunity from Hani Mukhtar, but well covered by Ustari. And then that's about it. I can't really pinpoint any moments that stood out to me as such. I think both teams had around 8 shots on target, and then Nashville had 6. So fairly even in that sense. But Inter Miami had the opportunities, converted those goals early, and then just cruised through the game. That's how I saw it. I just feel like we didn't do enough to take this game completely out of sight, but we and never during the game at any point did I feel that Inter Miami was truly under pressure as such either.
Okay, so here's the plan for the rest of the episode. We can probably spend 5 minutes talking about Nashville. We will then get to awards. I think we're going to have an extended awards section because I think there's some very interesting conversations to be had. And also, one of our viewers, Tunde, had a very interesting comment in our video from last night that I wanted to get into depth from. Clearly put a lot of time into that comment, and I wanted to give it the justice it deserved and maybe explain the way we feel about Luis Suarez. So we will get to that, and then maybe we'll talk about Javier Mascherano at the end, if and the team generally, because I have some thoughts, and Saur will try and bring me back to reality, as some would say, or make excuses for the coach, as others might say. Quickly, Nashville. I think Hani Mukhtar is an exceptional player. I think Najar is actually he's impressed me this year from that right back spot. I think Walker Zimmerman is a really good defender who we did not see until after we were up 2-1 last night. There's not a lot of talent on this team otherwise. I think they have a great coach, but this is not a team I'm concerned about heading into the playoffs, for example. It's not a team I expect to host a playoff game, if I'm being honest. I think they will finish 5th or 6th in the Eastern Conference, which is a solid team, but not one that's going to strike fear into the heart of an Inter Miami team on the road.
I think this team has got a little bit lucky in the sense that maybe the competition that they've had so far has sort of flattered them. That being said, they have played Columbus and looked decent. So they've definitely made their way and earned their way to the top of the Eastern Conference or second in the Eastern Conference. And Callahan is doing a fantastic job from where this team was a year ago. So all credit to them. But it never looked like they could threaten into Miami at any point during that game. Don't know whether that's the tactics or the quality that Miami possesses. Whatever it is, I thought there's a couple of players that are really good on this team who will continue to perform really well. But other than that, I don't think this is a team that Inter Miami should be scared of by any means. And going into this game, I was a little bit more nervous than I should have been because I think you had a very astute analysis on this that they're not that dangerous. And Sam Surridge has got a lot of goals, but there's context behind a lot of those goals. And it's mostly because Hani Mukhtar has been really good. Yesterday, we stopped them from playing through their main man. Hani Mukhtar did not even get on the ball in the first half. I think his name was said once 30 minutes. And the second half, there were a couple of opportunities, but even then, we never actually allowed Hani Mukhtar to dominate the ball as much. And that allowed Inter Miami to be more controlled in possession and stop the chances from coming. We talked about how do you stop someone like Sam Surridge. And our conclusion in that pre-game show is stop the service into him. I think Inter Miami did a really good job of doing that, and that's how you stop this Nashville team at the end of the day. It was a great matchup for Inter Miami, and one that we, I think, dealt with very well.
If there's any Nashville fans listening, I don't think that's an insult to your team. I actually think it's quite a nice compliment to know that you have a project and players and a coach to build around. And I think they are a transfer window or two away from being dangerous. And you know what? I might just eat these words if they get a really dynamic winger and a really dynamic midfielder in this upcoming transfer window. So they have pieces. They have, I think, a coach and maybe now a long-term vision that they can really believe in. But on this day, they're still not there with the elites of the elites. I think that Columbus, Miami, and Cincinnati are going to be the top three in the Eastern Conference in some order. And then it'll be Philadelphia, Nashville, Orlando City fighting for that spot. So I would be a little surprised if they finish with a home playoff game. Top four in the Eastern Conference. But that's just where we are at right now. Awards?
Is this the quickest that we've got to awards?
We've skipped a lot because I think we're going to talk about it either in awards or in our Javier Mascherano special session afterwards. So let's just get to it and we'll see where we end up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Saur, completely forgotten who goes first, and
It's
now
me.
I remember. Okay. For those that haven't listened, we give out 6 awards on this show. Heron of the match, Heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. Because I went first last time, you get to go first this time. Saur, who was the man of the match in your humble opinion?
In my very humble opinion, at the risk of giving Lionel Messi man of the match after man of the match after man of the match, today I'm going to switch it up a little bit and give the man of the match or the Heron of the match award to David Martínez. This is probably the last time that he's going to get an award, probably the last time that we're going to see him at the Chase Stadium. Last home game, I'm not sure if he plays against Cincinnati on Wednesday, but if this is the last of David Martínez, then I think he put in a worthy performance and will always be remembered fondly by Inter Miami fans for his short stint in this club. I thought he was brilliant, and everything good that Inter Miami did, David Martínez was a huge part of that. Defensively, very solid. A couple of opportunities where he had to take a man one-on-one, won the ball, put in a couple of good tackles, but more so than anything for me, what stood out was his ability to play the passes. That first opportunity that was created for Suarez actually came from a ball from David Martínez straight into Tadeo Allende, who missed the chance, and then the ball fell to Suarez. He had another really good pass into Messi in a similar position, and it almost feels like you have a Busquets in the back line without actually putting Busquets in the back line when you're playing David Martínez. Overall, a very positive performance. Maybe I'm overstating how good he was compared to Messi, because obviously Messi had the 2 most important moments in the game. But I think given that this is probably his last game for Inter Miami, I wanted to recognize him and I wanted to send him off with a nice little Heron of the Match award. So David Martínez, hats off to you. Well done and good luck.
I don't know why you have to do this, man. I get it. Clearly, Messi is the man of the match, the best player. And now, instead of being able to give David Martínez a proper send off, I have to spend half this award explaining that actually Lionel Messi deserves it and was the man of the match. I understand your point of reasoning. And by the way, we'll always defend your right to give the award to who you want to give to.
Well, not without complaining about it first.
Oh, for sure. Because Messi was the best player. That said,
David Messi had 2 moments, and I think David Martínez, in my opinion, was good across 90 minutes. As simple as that. Yes, Messi had the most important moments, but one of the goals was obviously, gifted to him, and he got that other goal. But I think David Martínez's performance needs to be recognized for that, and I wanted to give him the Heron of the Match award.
Again, I think it's unfortunate that we have to spend half this award arguing over it because David Martínez deserves recognition. and I respect that you're giving it to him. He was very good in this game. Like you said, this might be the last time that he plays for Inter Miami, and that in and of itself is a shame. That aside, I think just looking at his 90-minute performance, he was really, really, really good. Had a number of clearances, good positioning, his composure on the ball, his ability to distribute. He had a cross, like a cross field cross to, I believe, Tadeo Allende on that right wing. And you just think to yourself, man, if we played more explosive and expansive style, you would really see what this player could do. And even in this reserved, conservative game style that Javier Mascherano has us in, you still see uh, everything he can do. So, an good award. I don't know if a good award. I disagree with your choice, but that's totally fair. And David Martinez certainly had an excellent performance and um, deserves credit for what he did, not just tonight or last night, but over the course of his Inter Miami career. Okay, let's get to the heron that flew north. I'm giving it to Tadeo Allende because I thought he had another poor performance. This is a game he should have been more impactful. I didn't think Nashville sat that deep. I thought there was probably space for him to make runs in behind, and he just wasn't making them. We've seen him mess up opportunities. We've seen him have bad touches, and that cost a chance or whatever. But it felt to me like he wasn't very aggressive in making those runs in behind, which, as we talked about, probably a part of the game plan, but disappointing for me to see because that's when he has an impact in this game. Is when he's making those runs over the top, when he's clearing space for Messi and Suarez, and then occasionally when he does get those goals. And he wasn't even trying to do it. So for me, Allende is heron that flew north.
It's interesting because there were a couple of moments at the start of the game where I saw Allende make those runs in behind, and I thought to myself, this is going to be his game. He's going to be able to exploit the high line that Nashville was playing. He had a couple of really good moments in front of goal where he just hit it straight into the keeper, and then it never happened for the rest of the game. And I'm thinking to myself, why?
I'll
Um,
tell you why.
it's unfortunate, but I'll be honest. I don't necessarily think it's totally Allende's fault. I think
I don't either.
he wasn't. I don't think he was asked to make those runs, and he was asked to play a different role than what he should have been playing in this game. He wasn't particularly good. He wasn't particularly effective. I think that has to do largely with the fact that Allende didn't fit the game plan, and he gave the um, he gave opportunities to himself a couple of times at the start, but then it never happened again. And after that, he was just ineffective the entire game.
Do you know what happened? Inter Miami scored in the 17th minute, and the team got more conservative.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Um, he stopped making those runs because the team got a 1-0 lead. And everything you saw from him happened in the first 17 minutes. He also had a moment where he does get high and wide. He whips in a low cross to Segovia. Segovia can't put it on target. That was late in the first half. But for the most part, as soon as Inter Miami got that 1-0 lead, it really slowed down for Allende. And then we didn't really see him do much for the rest of the game. And then the reason he gets a word is when he was trying to play the ball, he had a couple poor touches, a couple more turnovers. And I thought the general play was bad. But the fact that he wasn't trying to do the things he was good at, is good at, very disappointing. And again, we'll get into bigger conversations about Javier Mascherano as we move forward. Saur, what is your first award?
So my first award is the Pink Legionary Award.
The Pink Legionary. It's a soldier in pink. Who's a fighter on this team? I think you're either talking about Maxi Falcón because he's very physical. You're talking about Talasco Segovia because he's just really good, and there's some sort of metaphor there that you're going to bring up. Or you're talking about Cello Wiegand, who's the biggest street baller fighter on our team, or at least that played last night. I'm going to guess Maxi Falcón because you thought he was worthy of an award, and he's not afraid to mix it up a little bit. Who does this award go to?
The Pink Legionary. Pink, obviously, because he's playing for Inter Miami. Legionary. The legions of Rome had a motto, and it was strength and honor. There was a player on that pitch who was playing for his honor because last game he didn't necessarily play well at all. And if he had the same level of performance in this game, his honor would have been tarnished, and all the goodwill that he has built up over the last 2 months would have completely dissipated, especially in our eyes. And strength, because he played with a lot of strength yesterday against a opposition who loves to play on the flanks, and I was worried about this player. And as you can tell by now, that's Cello Wiegand, because I thought there were moments that he was extremely strong on the ball, very physical. Couple of instances where he had two players on him, both Lovitz and Schaffelberg, he had to deal with, and he just brushed them off with complete strength and was very good in the way that he defended. And he lived up to his honor. He protected it and did not concede the goal. The one goal that came was not from his side. And I thought had a very defensively solid performance. And that I wanted to give the Pink Legionary Award to Cello Wiegand for turning it around this game. And I thought he had another impressive performance and did what he was asked to do.
I didn't see it, man. I thought he was below average in this game. I don't think he had a nice moment, if I'm being honest with you. So we can agree to disagree. Certainly, if I thought he was terrible, I would have given him the Heron that flew north. I didn't think he was terrible. But I didn't actually think I saw a really positive moment from him. But I am in a crabby mood right now, so maybe that was part of it. But I I
I
I
didn't
didn't
say
think
it.
this was a good move. I didn't think this was a good game for him. I thought this was a average to maybe slightly below average performance from Cello. But I thought that was sort of the case for a lot of players. So I didn't want to. I wouldn't have
So
singled him
let me
out.
ask you this.
Mhm.
What do you think Inter Miami was trying to do in this game?
I thought they were trying to get a one goal lead and then sit back and play very conservatively
And what was the role of the fullbacks in that game plan?
to protect the wide areas and not let anyone cut inside of them to
Do you
create
think Cello
opportunities.
Wiegand did a good job at doing that?
I think he got beat for pace a couple times by Schaffelberg.
I don't think so. I thought he had a
I
very decent performance in the structure that was asked of him, in the game plan that was asked of him, and I thought he was very good compared to Alba, who I didn't think was particularly great. We can talk about what the role of the fullback should be in this team and how they should be playing, but we have to get away from what this team should be doing and what they actually want to do. And I think
w-
with what the team was trying to do, Cello Wiegand did a really good job of that.
agree to disagree. Um, I think he got. I think there was a moment or two because I know a lot of people said Cello as a standout performer last night, and I on rewatching it, he got beat by Schaffelberg twice. That got called off for a offsides. But like if Schaffelberg had stayed on sides, Cello was dusted. And then I think he had got bailed out once by sort of a bad cross. So I don't agree to disagree, I guess. Um, anything else on Cello? Okay, my first award is the Freedom of Speech Award, and this award has a visual representation to give you guys a hint at what it might be. And this is that visual representation. This is a very famous painting by Norman Rockwell. It's called Freedom of Speech. And that's my only hint. And as I found out right before we went live, Sword does not know what this is. So I certainly don't think this is going to be easy for you to guess. But for anyone in the chat, maybe this is a helpful hint.
I think this award is to Lionel Messi because he's the only player on this team who is playing with the freedom and who has the ability to speak his mind in the prison that Javier Mascherano has put these players in. So for me, it's Lionel Messi.
It goes to Luis Suarez. Suarez had a not very good game, I think is a fair way to put it. He was not very productive. Had 2 shots where, if he was in fire form or maybe a better striker could have converted. Um, and he did not finish either of them. So I've seen a lot of hate for Suarez, and I want to stand up for him against the mob, which is the idea behind that painting. Someone standing up for what they think is right against sort of a mob mentality trying to silence those people. Suarez wasn't good last night, and I want to make sure I make that very clear. But I think fundamentally, the way this team is playing is not designed for Suarez to be good. And you have mentioned this multiple times so far in these first 35 minutes, that this team's objective was to get a 1-goal lead and then sit back and see out the rest of the game. Does that sound like the type of game where you'd expect Suarez to have a major impact?
No.
Okay. Now, let me remind you. Well, let me from you first. What do you think the general consensus is, in one sentence, for how Luis Suarez has played this season?
Quite poor. Below average.
Below average in what context? By MLS standards? By his standards? What
his standards, the standards that he set himself last
season. So you think he's been worse than last year? Significantly worse than last year? How would you describe it?
Significantly worse than last year.
Okay, and by MLS standards, where would you say?
Fine. Average.
Okay. And last year, how would you describe his performance by MLS standards?
Exceptional. MVP level.
You say maybe the best striker in the league last year.
Yeah.
We could find another case to argue or whatever, but like that was his level. Best striker in the league-ish last year. Okay. Last season, was Suarez fast?
No.
Was he athletic?
Not really.
Was he making runs in behind effectively?
Sometimes, yes. But that wasn't his game.
Okay. What would you say? Would you say these categorize his strengths? Link-up play last year when he was at his best.
Yes.
Distributor of the ball.
Yep.
Intelligent positioning to help his teammates create opportunities for themselves.
Correct.
And then clinical finishing.
Most important one.
Okay. So I want to take those 4 and I want to apply them to this situation that we are at this season. The first, linking up with his teammates. All of a sudden this year, we are playing a much more reserved style, including last night. And how that manifests is that Suarez is playing high, Messi plays high, occasionally Tadeo Allende makes runs in behind. That's it. There's 3 guys. You don't have Jordi Alba making those runs in behind. You don't have extra midfielders making attacking runs. And you don't have a left winger of any sort really operating in those areas. Would you say it makes it much more difficult to have effective link-up play when your options for link-up play are reduced dramatically?
Yes.
Would you say it makes it much more difficult to distribute effectively when you have fewer players in attacking positions trying to get into opportunities to score?
Sure.
Would you say it is harder to make intelligent runs and position yourself in intelligent ways to open up space for your teammates to create opportunities if less players are trying to get in position for opportunities for themselves?
Yep.
And would you say a player should be expected to score less goals if the team taking less shots overall, less touches in the box, less opportunities in the final third, all of that?
I mean, there's more nuance to it, but I know what you're trying to do. So I'm just going to say yes.
Okay. I'm not suggesting Luis Suarez played well last night. He had 2 shots that he probably could have and should have done better with. He had an opportunity to get an open teammate for an opportunity and did not make it. Here's my theory. If we played a style of soccer that suited and maximized what Luis Suarez was capable of, he would be much better. The reason he looks so much worse this year, and I acknowledge that, is because what we're doing with the rest of the team is making him less effective. It is minimizing his strengths, and it's asking him to do more. It's asking him to make more runs in behind. It's asking him to be more athletic, asking him to do more defensively. And that overall is something he's not capable of at this point. And so he looks worse because of it. I'm not saying he doesn't look worse. He does. I'm only suggesting that a lot of that in my head is actually the way that Javier Mascherano is setting up this team. And as you've suggested multiple times, it is more conservative, especially last night. They wanted to get 1-goal lead and then control the game. They got their 1-goal lead. You stop getting runs in behind. You stop being aggressive. You don't want to lose. You don't want to get worried about you're worried about the counter going the other way. You give up a lead. Once you score 10 minutes later, everything shuts down again. I want to stand up for Luis Suarez because I think his downturn in performance this season has more or as much to do with Javier Mascherano than it does with Luis Suarez. And so if we're talking about trying to fix this situation, I don't think it's Alan Obando. I don't think it's bringing in a new striker. It has more to do with the way the team plays, trying to get more out of their striker than anything else. And I want to back Luis Suarez in that regard. Now, I'm going to let you talk because I want to get your thoughts on this. But I also want to say Tunde wrote us a very interesting comment about Luis Suarez.
Wrote you a very interesting comment, yes.
Well, he argues with me a lot, so I think it's interesting. But so I want to get your thoughts on that, but I also want to make sure we talk about this a little bit more because I want to get to that comment.
No, there's okay. I'll be completely rational on this, and I'll try to be as emotionless as possible. I have been one of the biggest detractors of Luis Suarez this season, and that can come across in the way I talk about him. But your argument is very legit. You make a very good, poignant argument where you lay out your facts, and I completely agree with you that an element of Luis Suarez's gameplay, the reason it's been suffering so much is because the setup is not for him. It hasn't been designed for him. It's not going to get the out of him, and in fact, you can go as far as saying that it makes him worse. And that's all there to see. Absolutely agree with that point. But I think for someone who's of Luis Suarez's veteran experience, I think there's also an element of experience and adaptability to the style that you're trying to make, that you're trying to play. He has never been this one-dimensional striker who has limited range, and you need to play a certain style for it to suit him. Okay, this is not the Luis Suarez of old. He obviously has a lot of limitations when it comes to athleticism, when it comes to physicality, and you have to play a certain style that allows to get the best out of Luis Suarez. I understand that. He's in the swan song of his career, so you have to adapt around him rather than make him adapt to you. But that's then a moral question of how long would you want to continue to keep playing this player who's unable to do what you're trying to do with this team, and at the same time drawing all the criticism from the fans and the public when he's clearly not fitting your play style. There is a striker out there that you can go out and get that does certain things that you want them to do. They may not score goals.
Is it Ronaldo?
No. I'm not saying there's one specific player. I'm saying there's a specific kind, because there's always players that you can fit to your style. So you can go and get out a striker who's really good at pressing, who will do the defensive work, who might not be as prolific in front of the goal, but fits the system, presses from the front, is the first line of defense. Luis Suarez is not that player. That is all, I think, feeding into the argument that you're trying to make and maybe even building on it. So I completely agree on that point. But there is one element of this where he's definitely losing a step. His sharpness in front of goal is not there. Even in games where we do play a lot more expansive, he needs now 4 or 5 or 6 chances to actually get something in front of goal. And I'm not saying that happens every single game, because I think majority of the games we have been playing a lot more conservative. So yes, you can't entirely put the onus on him. But I think us as fans, when we see him struggling on the pitch and not being able to convert certain chances, he has to be the one to take responsibility for that as well. So you can defend him, but you can't completely deny all the accountability of him. And I think when he does get opportunities, for instance, that one chance that he had in front of goal yesterday, he needs to understand that he's not going to get as many opportunities in this system as he used to last season. and he has to be a lot sharper. He has to make himself a lot more available, because it almost feels like Inter Miami is trying to play this one system, but Luis Suarez is still trying to play that same system as last year, and he hasn't just been able to adapt to Mascherano's style of play. And that incongruency is really affecting his ability to influence games. And that for me is the biggest problem. I don't mind if a striker is not scoring every single game. I think this Inter Miami team has a lot of goals in across the front line, that the burden should not fall on the striker itself. For me, the biggest problem is that yes, we're playing a certain style, but within that style, Luis Suarez is completely lost. It's as if we are playing as a 10-man team, and he needs to find a way himself to make himself effective, whether that's getting involved in more goals, whether that's coming back and assisting with the build up play, as whatever that looks like in whatever instances that we do attack. Because I think there's an element of this where even when Luis Suarez was getting on the ball, his passing was all over the place. He just wasn't finding the right situations. It's not like he doesn't have the opportunities. There were a couple of instances, two, three, four, maybe in the first half, where he was on the left hand side of the pitch. He could make a decisive pass to make things happen. Last season, he would have done something a lot different with this. This season, he just pings it up in the air, allows the opposite defender to head it out. So I completely understand your point. I agree with your point as well. But I think that's 80% of the conversation. And then there's a 20% conversation about how the accountability should also be with Luis Suarez to try and make the most of his time on the pitch as well.
Yes. No arguments with anything you said. And I think maybe I should have mentioned also that by playing a system that doesn't suit him, I think that affects his confidence. I think you don't really get to shoot yourself into form as frequently when you do get into bad. Like I don't think it's necessarily just the system doesn't suit him. I think there has been his play hasn't been as efficient as it was last season. I do think he's not a fundamentally different player than he was last season, and that if we started volume targeting the opposition goal like we did last season, you would see him play himself into the type of form he was in last year. I
Yeah,
think
I think so. Yeah, I agree with
I think
that.
most of it has to do with the way Javier Mascherano sets up this team and tries to get success out of Suarez. I think it's fundamentally wrong. 80% maybe is the right number. So I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
I want to stick up for him because I think a lot of people are really hampering on him. And I think that's in part unfair because of the structural issues that have been created not by him, but by Javier Mascherano.
And let's clear, it's very hard to replicate the numbers that he put up last season, right? It's not easy to do that every season, and I'm not expecting him to do that either. But I think it's just the frustrating part for me is when for 89 minutes it's a ghosting performance from Suarez. Not to his fault sometimes. Like yesterday's performance, I don't think was entirely his fault. The same way that we didn't blame Allende, I think it was the system that we were trying to play. But it can become very, very frustrating watching the player just do nothing on the pitch for 89 minutes, not get taken off either. Allende got taken off, so at least you can see that.
He got taken off too, right?
Yeah,
83rd minute, I think Suarez comes off
Suarez.
for Aviles. Yeah.
Yes.
But that is a new thing.
Still,
That's
yeah,
not
that's
something we've seen all season.
exactly. That's not
Certainly.
consistent with how he's being played. And
Certainly.
there's just so much to this conversation that I think we can have an entire episode on it.
Hold on, let me stop because
Yeah.
I want to get to this comment by Tunde, and I think it will go through a lot of these other things, and then maybe
Yeah.
we can continue from here. So this is a comment from last night's Raw Reaction. You guys can check out the full comment. I took out a few parts that I think represented most of what Tunde was trying to say. But he starts by saying, I think Scotty makes too many excuses for Suarez that I don't think he makes for any other player. Just want to stop there. I think everything I just said also applies to Jordi Alba. Every single thing. Suarez is a legend of the game and absolutely deserves respect for that. But you should be either blind or in denial to see his performances have dropped. Again, I can see his performances have dropped. He is not as clinical. He does turn the ball over in situations, and he does miss opportunities that I think last year he would have made. But I think I tried to explain why I think the structure has set him up, and that maybe that has led to some bad form or a lack of confidence or whatever. But I want to make sure I say I think the same applies to Jordi Alba and other players on this team too that we can talk about when we get to Javier Mascherano. Tunde says he downplays Suarez's bad performances a lot, but the issue is also Miami's structural issues having to play with Suarez and Messi. And we see that Messi more than justifies the need to make adjustments around him, but Suarez does not. Here's the thing. We have seen this team be exceptional, intimidating, overwhelming, suffocating, all the things I keep saying with both Suarez and Messi in the lineup. And my whole point is that Suarez is not a fundamentally different player than he was last season. He's just being used in a terrible way. And that almost all of our problems would be solved if we played a more aggressive style that buried the opposition in shots on goal or at least entries into their box, putting them consistently under pressure that would force. Sometimes you'd get a 2-1 win. Sometimes you get a 3-2 loss, but oftentimes you'd get an overwhelming that leads to an easy 4-1 victory. We saw this a week ago against Montreal, and then here we are back 2 games in a row where we get a 1-goal lead, and then we just take the life out of the game. I think it hurts Luis Suarez. And so I don't think there's a structural problem with playing both Messi and Suarez on the field at the same time. I think it has to do with what Javier Mascherano has chosen to make this team and partially the players he chooses consistently to play and not play, and the players he's chosen to move off the team. And then lastly, he says the most frustrating, he says some other things that were interesting, but the other point I wanted to make, and that you were going to, the most frustrating thing here is that it's evident that our coaching staff does not care about Suarez's bad performances. This is, I think, your point. I think this is a lot of fans' point. When they see that Suarez does not perform effectively, when they see he's not impacting the games effectively, when they see he's turning the ball over, not scoring a lot of goals, not assisting, not helping defensively, all these other aspects to the game that he's not performing in, not helping the team in, they say, why are we not playing a different striker? And I think this comes back to Suarez being the number 2 star on this team. This is the MLS. Your number 2 star is going to play a lot. This is Luis Suarez. If he wants to play, he's going to play. And I get that's very frustrating, but that's the coach's responsibility to build a team that gets the best out of your best player, your second best player, your third best player, your fourth best player. So I hear your argument, Saur, that Suarez should find ways to be effective in this system, except there's no reason in this league with these salary caps, with what we have to deal with, that Inter Miami's system should be built around Luis Suarez as much as anyone except for Lionel Messi. That's my whole contention with the Suarez conversation, is that if Javier Mascherano was doing what he was supposed to be doing, which is building a system that maximizes his best players, then it would be a system set up to help Luis Suarez be great. And then I think Luis Suarez would be great. That's my whole contention with this whole conversation. I agree Suarez hasn't been great. I agree that Javier Mascherano should do something about it. And I agree it's frustrating that he doesn't. But to me, the blame for all of that lies on Javier Mascherano, not on Luis Suarez. And I wanted to give Luis Suarez a little bit of a defense because people are railing him when it should be, I think, attention focused on Javier Mascherano.
I agree with that. I agree with the point.
You want to go to the next award?
Yeah. So my next award is probably going to pale in comparison now, and we don't even need to discuss this, is the Less Heron, More Piranha Award.
Piranha, like a flesh-eating fish. Less heron, more piranha. You want someone who's more aggressive. You want someone who's more physical. You want someone that's going to take a bite out of someone, which makes me think it's Luis Suarez, but he's already taken. Well, I'm going to guess Maxi Falcón because I think you were pleasantly surprised by Maxi Falcón's performance last night, and I can justify him being less of a bird, more of a flesh-eating fish. Give me Maxi Falcón. Boom, nailed it.
Play the game, not the man, Scotty. Play the game, not the man. Um, no, it's not Maxi Falcón. Less Heron, more Piranha, because there were a couple of players on that pitch that were snappy like Piranha, and their counter pressing was insane. One of those players that stood out for me was none other than Benjamin Kromaski. Uh, Has to be him, man. Has to be him. I don't even need to explain it. I think he's developed into a really good, well rounded midfielder. You could see immediately as soon as he was put out wide, his effectiveness was gone because that's not his game style. And when you were asking him to do those counter pressing, when you were asking him to win the ball back, make those late runs into the box, Kramaski, I think, was one of the better players on the pitch. Not a great performance from Inter Miami, but the one thing that I really liked from the team was their ability to win the ball back immediately as soon as they lost it. And at the heart of that were our two piranhas, and one of them was Benjamin Kromaski. I thought he's grown into his own in these last 2-3 months, and of all the silver linings that I'm trying to look for, Benjamin Kromaski is definitely up top there. Great player. When he's played in the middle, he's just such a young, talented force. And I think he's just every single day earning himself that move abroad. And not just earning himself a move abroad, but allowing himself to now pick whichever suitor comes his way and wait for the best opportunity that comes his way, as you mentioned it a few episodes ago. So for me, Benjamin Kromaski, great piranha, less of a heron.
Great award, first of all. No player stood out more to me on the rewatch than Kromaski. He was really good. You saw it the first time, and we talked about it last night. I thought he got really had a positive impact in the last 30 minutes when he moves out to that wide midfielder. But on rewatch, absolutely exceptional in that first 60 minutes as well. Huge performance from him. And you're right, definitely ahead of Redondo. Is he going to give Yannick Bright a run for his money? Maybe. Is he going to give Rodrigo
The
de Paul
style
a
that
run for
we're
his
playing,
money?
yeah, maybe.
Okay, jokes aside, for Rodrigo de Paul, he's been exceptional. I agree with you. He's earning he was thrust into the spotlight as an 18-year-old and responded exceptionally well. Then the whole team came together with Messi and Busquets and Yannick Bright and Redondo, and it was harder for him to find a role. But that doesn't mean he stopped improving behind the scenes, stopped becoming a better player. And Mascherano tried to turn him into a winger earlier this season. And while I thought he was fine for being a midfielder playing on the wing, now that he's back in the midfield, we're seeing what he really is, and it's really fun to watch Piranha out there because he really was sort of a, flying through that river, catching the ball, winning ball recoveries, making it difficult for the opposition. I thought it was a really, really good game from Kromaski.
Okay, what's your final award?
For a little behind the scenes, we submit our awards to the graphics department before the episodes, so they're ordered. And now that I realize that Lionel Messi didn't get an award, I feel bad having given him this award. I did have one later on called the Good Soldier for Lionel Messi, which was being a good soldier where someone gets shot and you run out there and you put them on your back and you carry them to safety. That's what he's doing to Javier Mascherano. But it's not my award. My award is the Redondito Award.
So you gave him the Gomezito Award last episode, and now you're giving the Redondito Award. Who's the small Redondo? Huh. It can't be Redondo because that would be an awful award.
Hey, don't put it past me to give it all.
It's Sergio Busquets. I don't know why, but I think you're giving it to Sergio Busquets.
It's Baltasar Rodriguez.
Yeah. Again. I see what you did there. You gave him the Gomezito Award, and now you're giving him the Redondito Award. Soon he's going to get the Mesito Award.
I would love for him to get the Mesito Award. I gave him the Gomezito Award, and that is funny to say now that I say it out loud. Last time, because I thought, like when Diego Gomez first got here, he was very much a fish out of water, overwhelmed by the pace and electricity of the game. And I thought Baltasar showed a lot of that those same characteristics in the last game against New England when he gets his first start. Did not have a meaningful impact. I thought was really poor. And a lot of people mentioned things to me on Twitter about how this is a really good player and he's going to come good and all that, and they're very excited for him. I don't see it, man. The reason I'm giving him the Redondito award is because when Redondo first got here, a lot of people were very excited for him, and they saw his hustle and effort against DC to help Campana get a goal, and they were like, this guy's a superstar because of the price we paid for him and all that stuff. And he never had it. And it just took people a long time to finally realize it. I think we may be getting to the same idea with Baltasar. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he comes good. I hope he's an impactful player for this Inter Miami team. I haven't seen something that I can latch onto to make me think he's going to come good. So I'm not saying we're not going to, and I hope we do. And like you said, I hope the next time he gets the Messito award. But I don't see it with this player, and I hope I end up being wrong because it would be really nice if he comes good, but I just haven't seen it yet.
I think you're being a little extra harsh, and that's okay. I understand that. Again, I do want to say you need to give him a little bit of grace because of the environment and the context in which he is playing.
Agreed.
And this has only been 3 games since he's played, so still getting up to speed. And I don't want to make a quick judgment on a player that's young, that's still developing, and that could come that could come good for Inter Miami. So I think it's a little bit harsh. I understand your point because I mentioned this to you offline as well. When Yannick Bright first played, we saw immediately there's a spark about him. Ian Frey, Telasco Segovia. When Redondo came, we didn't necessarily know, he didn't stand out. Like there wasn't that one thing that was extra special about him. He was a good player, but we didn't think he was going to break the glass ceiling. And lo and behold, this season he isn't. He is relegated to a bench player, if not a rotational piece. There are always those young players who show you that something extra that you can look at and be like, okay, this may not be that finished product yet, but there's something about this player that's going to really make him take that next step and go to that next level. Same with Benjamin Kramaski. I haven't seen that with Baltazar as yet, but that's okay. It's only been 3 games. There's more to come. He's only had 1 game from 90 minutes, so I don't want to be judging him too harsh. But I can understand your concern, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see. He's going to get minutes over the next few games, over the next few months, and I hope he comes good. I don't want to write off a player before he's even got a proper chance. But I think a lot of that has to do with how we're playing in this system. And unfortunately, Baltazar might become another one of those casualties to Javier Mascherano's playstyle.
Cynical Tube is very confident in the chat that he's going to be a star, and I hope that's the case because it would be awesome if he develops into a star and then he's helping us win the MLS Cup and the Supporter Shield and all that stuff. I hope that's the case. He hasn't played 90 minutes yet, right? He's only gotten 1 start and he had to come off. He came off after 60. But 4 games, maybe 150 minutes total. I think we're starting to get a sense of what this player is at this level in the MLS. So, like I said last time, I hope he's like Gomez and he really starts to shine soon. But I haven't seen it yet, and I did want to make that point. Gabriela says, I hope the last award is for Messi because we won because of him. Like I said, I felt bad that Messi didn't get an award because he deserved one. I'll just say in my heart, he was the man of the match, but Saur got to give it out this week. So you can put the blame on Saur for that one. Anyone else from this game you want to dive into? Any other awards you had?
No, Cynical just mentioned why he's behind the Baltazar train, and I think it has to do with the selfish reason that he ordered his kit. So, fair enough. No, I think Segovia we've talked about. No, we didn't talk about Segovia as much, but I think the same conversation as Kramaski. Very good at the counter press, very good at winning the ball. Is actually proving to be a lot more press resistant than I thought. And Segovia, again, just goes to show class and level to this game. Allende wasn't particularly good. Ustari didn't have much to do. His passing was good. His coming off the line was really good, which I really liked. But that's about it. I think Jordi Alba we've already touched upon. Yeah, fairly uneventful game to talk about players individually, except that we spent almost 25 minutes talking about Luis Suarez, which was a warranted conversation.
It wasn't about Suarez's performance in this game.
It was
a
larger
conversation
picture.
about Suarez.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, Tito came off injured in like the 93rd minute. I'm assuming it was cramps. I was preparing for the raw reaction, so hopefully he's fine. We're gonna need him. Maxi Falcón is the other player. I think maybe there was a few positive words. I thought he had a nice performance, aside from maybe the one goal. But yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything. Okay, so I asked you if you would be willing to play good cop while I played bad cop at the end of this podcast to have a conversation about Javier Mascherano. And you agreed. And I don't know if you're going to live to regret that decision, but I think it could be an interesting exercise. I might be crazy, but I need someone to tell me if I'm actually crazy. And it goes all the way back to the very first chat in this conversation. Cynical Tube says, no Messi magic. We lose last night. In my opinion, we still look pretty bad, and Mosh needs to start coaching and stop hoping, which is a fun phrase. They're worse than they were last year at this time. I know they have the same number of points, but I think this is a cherry-picked point of the season because Inter Miami had just dropped 5 points in last year, and they have won 5 straight. They, from this point on, won their next 3 games. So if Inter Miami has 47 points after 2 Cincinnati games and a New York Red Bulls game, I think we'll feel a lot different. They have scored less goals than they did last year. They have conceded more goals than they have last year. So I think we can all see that the offense is not as effective, but I think it would surprise a lot of people to know that the defense is worse too. That comes in spite of the fact that I think we've sacrificed a lot of our offense, the overwhelming sense of our offense, the inevitability sense of our offense, in order to be more defensively sound, and yet we've conceded more goals. That's bad, dude. That's not good. And I should add, Messi had missed like 35% of the season at that point last year, and I think he's missed 2 games this year. So in terms of MLS games. So like if it wasn't for Messi, I think we would be in really bad shape. It's not, I think, a coincidence that we've won 5 straight games and Messi's gotten a brace in those 5 games. I think we lose last night if it's not for Messi. I think we would have lost to New England if it wasn't for Messi. I don't know what this team is going to do if they ever have to play without Messi. And I think because we never rotate, we're going to, keep seeing Messi until his form dries up a little bit, or he hurts himself because Mascherano never rotates. So I think things are teetering on the edge of potentially falling apart. Am I crazy?
You should contextualize this because people are going to come back to you and be like, you're talking in woulda, coulda, shoulda, hypotheticals. And for those people, you should mention that the reason you're concerned is because there eventually is going to come a time when Inter Miami has to inevitably struggle, and they're going to struggle without Messi. And it doesn't feel like the team is prepared for that. And the way things are going, it's a downward, it's diminishing returns. Yes, we're getting the points, we're winning the games, but that's slowly going to get worse to the point where we're now actually going to start looking really bad. And then we're going to start complaining. We did 2 months ago. So you should mention that your concern is not about the fact that we're not playing prolific football, not getting the result right now, but what it actually means for the broader season and going into this playoff, especially when it's going to absolutely wheels are going off. I was supposed to talk you off the ledge.
Well, maybe the better way is to just contextualize what I'm saying, which I think you did a great job there.
Yeah, I think it's important to contextualize it. I will say, though, you've always been a little bit more concerned and analytical. I don't want to say over-analytical because a lot of your analysis is very astute and on point, but I think you overanalyze some aspects of Inter Miami, which is at the end of the day, that's why we're on the mics talking, and that's understandable. So in a universe, we could completely be fine. And this can continue for the next 50 games and we'll end up winning everything and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But there's something about this team that makes me worry a little bit. And I think we're being stretched like a gum longer and longer and longer. And there's going to come a point when the slack is going to break and Inter Miami is going to relieve us. So there's a legit point to your argument. You're not entirely crazy, but what I will say is why put yourself through so much pain and misery, man?
Well,
Just
I'll tell you.
while we're winning, enjoy it, because inevitably it's going to happen when we get to a point that Inter Miami just doesn't play well. And Rodrigo de Paul is coming, so hey, it's good, right?
I want to get back to that. Here's what I'll say. You know when I was really excited? When Inter Miami beat Charlotte 1-0, despite the fact that we had one chance on goal the entire game, and today Allende converted it. And then we looked poor against Cavalier, but we got 2-0 victories. And then we got a last-minute win against Atlanta where Fafa saves us in the 89th minute. We host Philadelphia, we get a 2-1 victory, but we don't look great. That's when I felt great. But really, you could see the offense was starting to come back down. And the defense wasn't exceptional. And the goalkeeping wasn't exceptional. And then all of a sudden you lose to LAFC. And you play horrible against Toronto. And you play horrible against Chicago. And you have a very lucky 1-0 win against Columbus. And even then, the results hadn't fallen off a cliff until all of a sudden the results completely fell off a cliff. And you get 5 losses and 2 draws in 8 games, only 1 win against the New York Red Bulls. And we really needed Messi to go God mode to get us out of that terrible slump. I don't want people to forget that the only reason we're not still at this moment in that terrible slump is because Messi has become the absolute best player in the world and has not stopped for a single game since he took that free kick shot against Philadelphia. If he misses a game, we're not going to score goals. Not because Suarez is incapable of scoring goals, but because he's not in form. And Allende's not in form, and Segovvia's not in form. And the reason they're not in form is because we never force feed any of them to get them into shooting form, because we just sit back, play conservatively, and let Messi get us the brace that gets us a 2-1 victory. This is not sustainable. And we've already seen it this year where we strung out a very nice 6-8 week stretch of results. And then it all fell apart because the truth is it was a paper castle built on Messi being amazing. And if you think it wasn't, I will remind you that I said early in the season that Messi was in his best form since the Leagues Cup. And then as soon as his form dropped, the results stopped coming. And now that his form is back, the results have come. That's not what this Inter Miami team should be. That's not how this roster was built. The reason it looks like that is because our coaching staff has taken all of our best attacking players, Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez, Tadeo Allende, Fafa Picault, Robert Taylor, Julian Gressel, and he's handicapped all of them, half of them by sending them out of town. And he said, you guys are going to play conservatively. And I'm not going to let you get 7 crosses in a game, Jordi Alba, and you get your one assist that makes you feel very good, very confident, and produce every single game. And because you're only getting 1 cross a game and you only get 5 crosses a month, you're going to play yourself out of confidence. You're going to play yourself out of form. And so when I need you to have that, you're not going to have it. Same thing with Luis Suarez. Same thing with Fafa Picault. Same thing with all of these guys. And they're not even better defensively because of it. I think that's the whole thing. Not the whole thing. I think you should always play an aggressive, attacking, overwhelming style with Messi and Suarez on your team. But they are worse defensively. All of that seemingly trying to become a better defensive team, and they are worse defensively. What the heck is going on here? What's happening? I feel like a crazy person saying this out loud.
It's mass ball. No, you're not crazy by any means. I think I've just come to terms with it at the end of the day. I'm sitting here trying to play the good cop, and I don't have too much positive to say about Mascherano, except that maybe we'll continue on this path and we'll win the MLS Cup. If that happens, then good for us, man. But while we sit here on our couches, wanting Inter Miami to put on a good show and play good football, that's not happening. The last two games, I'll be honest, I haven't even wanted to rewatch the game because they've been
Same.
very
Same.
plain and boring. And I lost a little bit of excitement. I think the Club World Cup was really fun and it was great. But we were right to think that Inter Miami is going to get back into mode of not being as soon as we're not the underdogs, we just can't perform to that level. So there's definitely a mentality issue that stems from the coaching staff, and it's going to come back to bite us. And I think people may disagree with us right now. I think, um, I think it's going to happen again. We're going to have the wheels fall off again.
I do too. Cynical Tube says, let's not forget Bright is injured. I should also mention, this is in 19 games into the MLS season. We were better last year defensively, and that was before Yannick Bright broke out. It was before Sergio Busquets went to the back line. It's the circumstances are better this season. One last conversation I want to have with you. Two last conversations I want to have with you. I don't know if Rodrigo De Paul fixes this because
No, he
Rodrigo
doesn't.
De Paul is not going to be up there pressing from the front line to win balls and create opportunities if Javier Mascherano is telling him to stay back and play conservatively. So, yes, he's a huge talent that will upgrade the overall talent level. Talent on this roster is not a problem. They have the best, most talented roster in MLS. It's a coaching problem.
And it's surprising from a coach that came from the Barcelona system. It's so interesting.
So I think anyone expecting Alan Obando to fix this, I think anyone expecting Rodrigo De Paul to fix this, I think anyone expecting Brian Rodriguez to fix this, I think is missing the point because it's a philosophical, tactical, strategy from the coaching staff that has caused this. And I think until you fix the coaching staff, you are going to struggle. And then the last thing I wanted to say, I think you should go back to Drake Callender. I don't think they're going to because they paid Oscar Ustari a ton of money and they made the decision that they were going to start Ustari over Drake Callender before Javier Mascherano ever saw one of them play a game live. But Drake Callender is a better goalkeeper. That's not to say Oscar Ustari hasn't had great moments this year. That doesn't mean Oscar Ustari hasn't been really good, solid player for the team this year and deserves respect for his performance. Drake Callender is a better goalkeeper. He will help you save more goals. He will help you be a better team. And if your whole plan is to be a defensive team, you should be putting out the best shot stopper. They're not going to put Drake Callender out because they internally decided before the season started that Drake Callender is not our goalkeeper. But that was the wrong decision to make. That's a way you can start to remedy what you've done.
I don't even know if that's going to solve anything, but I agree with you. I think Drake Callender deserves a fair shot to try and get back his number one spot as soon as he's back healthy. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I think there's going to be a lot more negative conversations in our future, and I'm not really excited for that, I'll be honest. But yeah, no, I didn't even want to mention that. Let's not talk about the L word. I will get depressed. I'm already fuming. Damn. Hey, we won the game 2-1 against Nashville, which is a great team, and hopefully we can win against Cincy as well. And if we win against Cincy, I think we need to have a nice positive conversation because I can't dwell on these negative aspects of it, even though they're absolutely worth talking about.
Inter Miami's won 5 MLS games in a row.
Yes.
Contextually, though, the Columbus game is without a doubt a great win. They also played Montreal twice in that span, and that's the worst team in the league talent-wise. And the last 2 games against New England and Nashville, I think the reason they won because Messi was gifted a goal both games.
Yeah.
And they won by 1 goal. So if you dig deeper a little bit, you can see reasons that this might not continue. Now, Javier Mascherano might be a genius. And maybe he's saying, I don't need to rotate my players because I'm just going to have them work less hard during the games. We don't need to score 5 goals. It'll be easier on our bodies if we just score 1 and then win the game that way. and that's his master plan. And you know what? If it works, I'll give him a nice slow clap on this conversation. But let me be clear. It working means you win the MLS Cup. And if you don't win the MLS Cup, you failed this team from start to finish. And so that's it. You're betting it all on that. Good luck. Like, don't say we didn't warn you.
It's all on 7 Red, man. It's all on 7 Red.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And if Messi gets injured or abducted by aliens or whatever, like, don't. We warned you.
Oh, well.
Cincinnati, Wednesday. Everyone's excited for that game. I do think Rodrigo De Paul could be sort of a breath of fresh air in the lineup. And I think we might get a nice bounce from that. That could carry us into a deep Leagues Cup run. So
that's all we need, right? Just sign big players at just the right times when the form is about to drop so that we get a nice bounce back and take us all the way to the MLS Cup like that, and we'll be fine. Just keep the transfer window open the entire year for Inter Miami to sign one player every 2 months. That's all we need.
You said it. Last comment I'll just say. Wookie says calendar is so shaky overall. This is a collective brain fog from everyone. This player statistically is one of the best goalkeepers in the MLS and has been for the entire 2023 and 2024 season. And so there's a hyperfixation on his mistakes. But the truth is you get such incredible moments from him that you're not getting replicated with Ustari. And that's not a shot at Ustari, who's been a well above average goalkeeper for Inter Miami this season. But the stats are the stats. And so I don't know what else to say other than we'll be back on Wednesday for the pregame show.
All right, guys. I apologize for Scotty's negative pessimism and the conversations that we had today, despite the fact that Inter Miami won 2-1. But honestly, we shouldn't be apologizing because these are astute conversations that need to be had. And these are conversations that I think are important. And I think we'll come back to a lot of these as soon as we get deeper into the season. We promise the next episode we're going to make sure it's nice and positive as long as Inter Miami wins against Cincy. If we lose against Cincy, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep that positivity going. But as always, keep joining us. And I think one aspect of this that Scotty keeps hammering home, and I want to reiterate, is the fact that we get to interact with you. The fact that you put comments on our videos and we have the opportunity to have a good conversation about these issues and topics. Keep doing that. Keep commenting, keep liking, keep interacting with us. And at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of one knucklehead and one bozo. And we just love getting on the mic and talking about Inter Miami and expressing our feelings. So whether you agree or whether you disagree, keep coming back and we'll continue to have these conversations.
You know what else is cool? Lionel Messi plays for our team.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
And that guy's pretty good at soccer.
Yep.
So there's certainly reasons to be happy and excited if you're a fan of a team with Lionel Messi. Guys, that'll wrap it up for tonight. We will be back probably for the pregame show on Wednesday, if not sooner, because there is breaking transfer news or something major happens. We'll certainly go live to talk about it. But in the meantime, we hope you have a wonderful night, a wonderful week. We will see you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.